Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the seminar, Responding to the Challenge of AI, Retrieving Human Intelligence Through Labor. We have with us today a rather unique panel of father and a son combo who have co-authored a very thought-provoking paper which has already appeared in the International Labor Review. And I'd like to thank my colleague Aristia Kukiadaki, who's around with us, for publishing it for this particular event. And this paper actually explores the artificial and human intelligence through the lens of labor. Before we get into it, I would like to introduce to you the two special speakers of this afternoon, Jaume Augusti Coulel, who has a PhD in physics from Paris Sud University. He's a retired AI researcher. We had lunch with him, and it was very interesting to hear. He started with his PhD in physics, and when he went to the university, one of the first tasks that he was asked to do was to give an entire lecture on AI, and he was given a book. And that's where his journey of artificial intelligence actually started. And then he co-founded the Artificial Intelligence Research Institute in Spain. After decades in the field, his current work looks beyond algorithms to explore a much broader and more human understanding of intelligence. And the second expert with us is none other than our good friend, Jordi Augusti Panareda, and it goes about almost 17 years that we've been together. We were both relishing how we enjoyed our time in Turin when we joined in 2008, and we have very fond memories of it. He's got a PhD in the science of law from Stanford University. He's a lawyer, a social legal researcher, and senior official here at the ILO. I don't think many of you know, but before he joined the ILO, he had worked in some prestigious companies, and I'll leave it to him to talk about it if he gets a chance. He has served both the legal and the International Labor Standards Department and currently heads the ILO Ethics Office. His current research focuses on AI and ethics and the development of ethical human intelligence. So thanks to both of you for joining us today for this discussion. And we're really looking forward for this debate on AI and human intelligence. Before we begin, I'd like to say a big thank you to a colleague of ours who's not here, Alessandro, who's our communication officer, who has worked quite a bit behind the scenes substantively for the discussion today. And he's not with us, but he'll follow this whenever he gets a chance. And I'd also like to thank two other colleagues, Pierre Alain sitting next to me, and Morgan Williams, for all their technical support. There's one clarification that I'd like to make before we enter, and I know Jordi, as ethics officer, will really appreciate this. The paper that we are going to discuss today was submitted through the regular blind peer review process to the International Labor Review. And today's presentation is entirely my initiative as part of the AI and digital economy work that we do in the research department. And the participation of both authors involves absolutely no cost to the ILO. And I think this is very important to mention because I'm dealing with an ethics officer here. And Jordi was very kind enough to cover his father's travel and in hosting him, of course, during his visit. And we've had a very good opportunity to spend some time with his parents over lunch today. So today's discussion takes a step back from the noise around AI, both the fears, frustrations, as well as the opportunities that are talked about, to ask a very deep question: what do we mean by intelligence in the first place? And it's quite interesting. If you get a chance to look at Karen Howe's work, she talks about how the word artificial intelligence came about. And that's not what we are going to talk about today, but there's quite a bit of digging that is going around today around AI. Now, what this paper does is it argues that much of the confusion around AI comes from how narrowly we have come to understand our own intelligence. It invites us to refocus on the richer human dimensions, that is, creativity, ethics, freedom, and cooperation, and to see work as a place where these qualities can truly flourish. The paper also cautions us that, and let me quote, it would be a mistake to just react fatalistically to all AI or technoscience in general, when the issue at hand is how we have been neglecting fundamental aspects of human intelligence. Instead, we need to be proactive. It is in the realm of labor that the operation of intelligence is largely shaped, often based on the demands of the job market. It is therefore that the future of human intelligence is being played out. With that, let's begin our conversation by asking how this collaboration came about and what inspired the two of them to actually write the paper. So I'm going to ask Jordi first. So, Jordi, what was the motivation behind writing this paper?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Uma, for all these really generous and kind words. And first, let me thank the International Labour Review, and in particular Aristea and her team and the blind peer reviewers for having accepted to publish this paper, and to you, Uma, for having us here today. We're really, really honored. And another ethics officer disclaimer, of course, these are just our personal views. They do not necessarily represent the ILO. And everything I'll say is to be construed as being completely compatible with international civil service. Now we have an advantage today. My father has absolute freedom. He loves exercising it. So for the more provocative questions and answers, you can address him. He can take care of that. Now, back to the question. This is actually probably the most special paper I will ever get to write. And it goes back to when I was a child and would go to our walks in the forest, and I would bombard my father with countless questions, to the point that my mother, who's here today and who is also to be credited with this paper for obvious reasons, of course, would tell you that he would try to sneak out sometimes so we could have a bit of peace and quiet and cognitive rest. But it's from these conversations, decades-long conversations, that it comes. It's an attempt at what we defend, which is the collective exercise of intelligence, intergenerational, combining the approaches of a scientist, an artificial intelligence researcher, and a lawyer and jack of all trades that you know, who is here. And we are really trying to bring in the complementarity of our work and our research. What the article does indeed is tries to provide a different take on the current hype on artificial intelligence. And the take is very simple. It tries to provide a positive response to the fears, challenges of technological transformation, today AI. And in a way, linking with the same humanist drive that got this organization to be created more than 100 years ago, which is none other than the promotion of human intelligence in all its dimensions and powers. So it's completely coherent with the human-centered pursuit of social justice that this organization promotes. And we argue, as Uma noted, that the exaggerated fascination and fear of AI today, what it actually hides is a flawed understanding of our own intelligence and a lack of reflection on, and we very easily borrow the models of AI to understand our own intelligence, and we ignore what the potential that this intelligence has to offer. We, of course, do not claim to have any truth or monopoly over the way human intelligence can be understood. Actually, one of the main arguments of the paper is that we're too caught up with knowledge, and we need to exercise those capabilities of human intelligence that allow us to take some distance. But nevertheless, we offer a framework, but just to stimulate further research. So we don't get up with our model, just we hope that it will inspire you to focus more on the cultivation of human intelligence in whatever work you're doing. So that's why we're zooming into the workplace as the main arena where intelligence is exercised and therefore shaped. And we also humbly offer an approach to the challenges of artificial intelligence that hopefully could be could resonate with the approach of the ILO and offer a human-centered way forward. So the paper is, after all, a little bit of a love letter to this organization, and that's why it's so special for us to be here. It's so special for us to be surrounded by friends and colleagues here, and I think we have 57 right now colleagues that joined online. So thank you so much, and we look forward most of all to your questions and to just starting a dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jordi. And I think it's very clearly a dialogue between generations, disciplines, and perspective, right? In a way, it sort of embodies what you're arguing. You're basically trying to say the intelligence is a lot more about curiosity. It's about shared reflections, relationships, and what we learn in the entire process. So, coming to the present, I think you tried to tell about some journey of yours, but let me ask Jeremy that what, according to you, is this fear, the mix that is there of, both the fear and fascination with AI today? And what is it that motivates you to get into this discussion?
Yeah, thank you very much, Uma, for your invitation and for all assistants, friends, and colleagues of Jordi, and to be here with Jordi and also my wife. About artificial intelligence fascination, I think that the origin is in the fascination for information. Artificial intelligence is the best tool to deal with information, the more sophisticated one. But the fascination for artificial intelligence comes previously by the fascination for information itself. We have used it, we have given an importance, even obsessive importance to information, because it's very useful to us. It's also an instrument of control, and it's easy to manipulate by the computers now. And so it gives a power in fact, a domination power to control society. There are different states that are using this to the level of bit by bit becoming a digital dictatorship. I realized this thing when I started in the 70s my work on artificial intelligence. Soon I was going to congresses. In that moment was one of the waves of fascination, because artificial intelligence has passed different ways of fascination and also downs. And I realized that artificial intelligence was a tool for control, for surveillance, and then I was really worried about this. And I got an insight which is the origin of all my working. In particular, I brought a book. I have two books about human intelligence, one called From Programmed to Creative Intelligence, and this last one, both published in Amazon by my son, which is the intelligence of creative freedom, and subtitle is From Sapiens to Coherence. Coherence means, the one who questions, always questions. Then this is, I think, the real nature of humans, not to know, but to question. Then, with this insight, which is that reality is really free, nobody can control reality. Reality is always advancing towards novelty. And information is something that belongs always to the past. On the contrary, intelligence is the capacity to face the unknown. And this capacity has made the evolution of cultures, etc. I will be short, trying to be short, because I think that the best we can have is a good dialogue of questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yume. In a way, what you're trying to talk to us is about much more the anxiety that it can create because of the digital dictatorship that you're talking, which we get to see today's world with some of the multinational companies actually controlling here. But I think here is where I think the confusion is also, right? Where we have started to treat intelligence as something which is measurable and rather than something that is really moral or creative, which is what both of you try to talk about it in the paper, and you're trying to get it, which brings us to our own understanding of what is intelligence per se? You know, what do we mean when we talk about human intelligence or artificial intelligence? So, Jody, can you tell us a bit more about how we actually understand the two different types of intelligence that you're talking about?
Thank you so much, Uma. Of course, we don't claim to hold the truth and the ultimate understanding on what intelligence actually what we point at is the richness and the mystery that it includes. But we're very concerned about the extremely limiting modeling of intelligence as data processing that permeates a lot of the AI discussion. And therefore, we're proposing in the paper, which should be showing you to you now, a more expansive, richer view. And again, these are you could use other categorizations, but these are the categorizations that we propose to specially stimulate that richer vision of intelligence. This model also has a core underpinning, which is we view intelligence as the agent of human life. We don't focus on knowledge, we focus on intelligence as this agency, this core agency. And we also, right off the bat, note that there's no model of reality that can fully encompass reality. We call that the freedom of reality. So under these caveats, we propose three dimensions. The first one, the one that we know the most, functional. The intelligence that allows us to do things. It's instrumental. It is about skill, functionality. It is very useful to predict and control and create models of reality, but it has a price to pay. In order to do that, you need to ignore all the things that cannot be measured. For example, value, social justice cannot be measured. We're not care about it. It's therefore the intelligence characteristic of the technosciences, and it focuses on the how things are done. And that's where AI has its stronghold. AI primarily tries to automate dysfunctional intelligence, and it can do very well at it, as we're talking about programmable tasks. Now, it's not the only form of intelligence, and that's where we want to put your focus on. Even if you like different labels, we use, it's a big name, axiological. It means everything that has to do with giving value and meaning to our lives. It comes from the Greek, and it included both ethics and aesthetics, for example. And for us, is a way of recalling that there is a form of intelligence that is about telling us what to do and why to do it. Because the functional is about the how, but it will not tell you for what reason. So that's intelligence that legislators exercise, but also artists when they want to touch us or inspire us. And it operates through feeling and intuition, and it uses often the languages of values and counter-values. Again, for example, ideals like social justice fall within this realm of intelligence. We claim that when functional intelligence, how to do things, and what to do and why are aligned, we have what we call the intelligence of need. And that would be the intelligence that approaches and models reality to satisfy our human needs. And it's, of course, very important for survival. But we also, and that's the main emphasis of this model, want to recall that that's not the end of the story. There is another very important dimension there, which is fundamental for this intelligence of need to function. and that we call liberating intelligence. It's a more contemplative view of intelligence. It's a contemplative dimension. And we call it liberating because it's the intelligence that provides ultimately the insight that functional and axiological models are ultimately related to our perspectives, to our needs, to our frameworks. And this is intelligence that allows us, enables us to silence everything, take distance from our ego, from our notions, from words, from desires, from emotions, and take another perspective. And this is key to any creative breakthrough. So it's fundamental to promoting creativity. Functional and axiological intelligence are very practical and important for our human lives. And therefore, the functional intelligence at work has dominated because it's this, using people to, accomplish certain tasks using certain patterns, and that can be, of course, automatized. But it is actually thanks to this liberating dimension that the other two forms of intelligence can really provide their biggest added value. For example, for a scientist to be able to come up with a new theory needs that freedom that allows us to focus on a certain aspect, make abstractions, test new ideas, etc. So while often forgotten, is very important for all the other forms of intelligence to work. And what we call in the book is that when we have the three operating in balance, we have a harmonic intelligence. So anyway, that's our little model to inspire discussion.
Jeremy, do you want to complement a bit more to what Jody is saying about human and artificial intelligence?
Well, no, the main thing that I realized that when I discovered this freedom in intelligence is that we, the humans, unlike the rest of animals, participate a lot in this creative freedom of reality. And this makes the difference between like animals that also construct models of reality. For instance, the tick parasite has only two senses, and with these two senses to detect the worth of animals and the sweat of animals, constructs a world to survive. We do the same thanks to language. It's different, but this is an intelligence of need. And I discovered this, all traditions have focused on freedom, on this capacity of not be enslaved by needs. And in particular, the needs not become greed, that the intelligence of need not becomes an intelligence of greed, which happened. And we, in some sense, are living an intelligence of greed with immense inequalities in the world. Just reinforcement of what Jordi.
Yeah, thank you so much. In a way, I think what's very interesting that comes out from the kind of framework that you're talking about, the model that you say, is much more the liberating intelligence and the freedom to be able to do. And if I understand it right, what you're trying to say is that human intelligence is something that is just not about calculating, but to judge, to imagine, and to be creative, and to have much more a creative meaning to the entire purpose behind it. Where what the AI is basically doing is it's imitating without knowing what the purpose is for. Is that right, in my understanding?
Yeah, well.
Yeah. So I think you further in the paper try to expand these functionalities into what you call it as constitutive powers of of human intelligence, sorry.
Yes.
And Jeremy, do you want to expand a bit and tell us what you mean by these constitutive powers?
I will try to be brief. Intelligence, I realize that it's undefinable. But if you observe how it acts, because intelligence is fundamentally interaction between humans and with nature. This is the essence of intelligence. And I try to understand its main actions of intelligence, the basic actions of intelligence. And I find 5 that has been treated separately in many books and literature, but they are treated separately. And I realized that these 5 activities of intelligence, which I call powers, creative powers of intelligence, constitutive creative powers, CCP, which is not Communist Chinese Party.
If you Google it, you might get confused.
that were very closely interlinked and between them, very closely interdependent. And so it came to me to represent it by the hand, because also the fingers of the hand are closely interdependent. And so I started to attribute to each finger one of these powers. The first is, I will try to be brief because it gives a lot of work to or talk about them. This is the index, which is the interest in reality. It's the energy of intelligence, the one who realizes what is really of value, what has to be done, what feelings with what feelings you approach reality. It's very important that this finger is known by all of us, and not only at the individual level, but also at the social level. What are the interests of society in trying to fit our particular interests? Unfortunately, it's in the schools, very much people finish his studies and don't know which is his real interest. And they are a bit. This is one of the flaws of our education. The second is this one, which I note is not good to do this, but is the communication. It's the middle finger, which relates all of them. This communication is a result of our freedom. Animals are genetically programmed intelligence that have a close relationship between a stimulus and response. Humans broken this link and put in the middle words full of meaning, stimulating intelligence, and in fact, creating a world of descriptions of meanings. This has created, in fact, our cultures. Each culture has a language. Communication is, I think, one of the most marvelous powers of intelligence, which allows the relation between all of them. The next finger is the finger of the ring, which I call it subsidiary symbiosis, which is living together. Humans, unlike the rest of animals, cannot survive alone. We need to live in community. We live to help each other, to care each other, to survive. And it's basic with communication to establish human relations and to establish cooperation that makes advance society. It's two very powerful powers. I call it subsidiary because one of the flaws of symbiosis is that has, from thousands of years ago and still it's present, it's a kind of symbiosis which is hierarchical. Because hierarchies kill the creativity of except the higher, the ones that control it. But for the rest of the people, it's a killing. You are an obedient person to the hierarchy. In the old times was said that to be human was to obey closely to your superior. That was one. And we have arrested this with patriarchalism in different ways, and it still is present. And this is one of the things that in labor should be aparted because it doesn't allow a development of intelligence. The last thing, it's the pinky, it's the generalized research. I call it generalized because it's a research not a specialized, but a research on life, on how is the best way of living. It's the pinky because it started to be practiced systematically from the Renaissance onwards. Before, people were interested in repeating the past. The interest was pointing to the past, always. Apart from the Renaissance, there is this possibility of research, of creativity, but was concentrated mainly in elites, engineers, researchers, medical people, but most of people continued without exercising. Today, it's necessary for every person in a world that changes continuously to have this attitude of research. The last and more specific power of intelligence, and also the more specific finger of the hand is the thumb. The thumb is freedom. Freedom, which is not understood as just free will. It's more deeply. It's the contact with the freedom of reality itself. No one, not our ego, not the domination powers, can submit you. It is very important because it's the one who cleanses you from the past and the expectations of the future and makes your intelligence flexible and clear. And also at the same time makes more powerful the rest of fingers. When this is not cultivated, which has something that happens frequently, I have to tell you that the most of papers I've read on intelligence, on human intelligence, don't mention freedom. Don't consider it as essential part of human intelligence. That's my vision of the creative hand.
Thank you so much, Yome, for this, taking us into the entire constitutive power of human intelligence and identifying the 5 areas of curiosity, communication, cooperation, inquiry, and freedom. Yeah, sure.
A bit. Curiosity is not the same as interest. Curiosity is what is a functional aspect of interest, because curiosity allows you to cure the cancer, but also to make the atomic bomb, because it's not implicated in curiosity. It's in the realm of functional intelligence, not in the realm of axiological intelligence, in the feelings, because you, with a strong feeling of the well-being of humanity, you will not make the atomic bomb. But only with curiosity you can do it, because you are interested in how things work, how can do this spectacular thing. Sorry for...
No, sure. But I think we don't need to go to building atom bombs, but we could be also curious about thinking what kind of a society we want to build in, right? So it's different ways in which curiosity could actually play around. But I think the point that you're trying to make is that intelligence is something of a collective practice which you build within a community or a society and not a kind of an individual trait. And this is something which is very important if you want to be social and creative in a way. Which brings me back, you sort of touched upon it about the labor component, and brings me back into how do you actually bring this analysis into the field of labor, the whole question around AI and human intelligence. And Jody, can you say something around that?
Thank you. Thank you. And that's the reason why we're here with you today. So one of our very early realizations is that we need to look at where intelligence is exercised. And of course, you can say education in school. Yes, but in school, you're formatted for a specific labor market, and you want to be trained to be able to earn your life and survive. So when we think about human intelligence, the first thing we have to think about is how is it being exercised and therefore shaped in the field of labor. And more than that, we will have a philosophical rationale for that. As mentioned, our model starts from realizing that intelligence is the agent of human life. Well, if labor needs to be human-centered, labor needs to care about the development of human intelligence. That's our main argument. And we want to emphasize that the workplace should be seen as a space where to explore and develop and experiment with this intelligence. And conversely, we see that our obsession with productivity and consumption that has dominated, and perhaps for good reasons at the beginning, for survival, to ensure that we can exercise intelligence of need, as we mentioned. But this obsession has led to privileging one form of intelligence at work, and that's a functional form. Again, for normal reasons, survival. Now, AI brings an opportunity with us. I mean, AI confronts us with the realization that this today is very problematic. If we continue imagining ourselves as intelligent beings, as individual programmable intelligence in the market, we just make ourselves more vulnerable in sinking into precarious vulnerability, because we then feel unable to compete with machines that, from this functional perspective, can outperform us. So we argue in the paper that we need to transcend this limiting view of labor as aligning individual programmed intelligences in the market with specific skills to solve known problems within a hierarchy, et cetera, and that this excessive functional approach to human intelligence has actually been neglecting the other two dimensions that we were mentioning. And sorry, I should have shifted the present. Thank you so much. Thank you. This has been at the cost, as I mentioned, of not cultivating enough the other dimensions of human intelligence, in particular, the liberating one that allows us to retrieve our full potential, but also the axiological that allows us to humanize work further. And that's where our paper is fully aligned with the mandate of the ILO. Our call in the article is to humanize labor through ensuring that labor promotes the full development of human intelligence in all its dimensions and constitutive powers, and having intelligence as this agent of human life that makes work human-centered. But beyond that, you could say, philosophical explanation, there's something far more pragmatic. Today, we're faced with a labor market that is constantly shifting, demands are changing, and the only way to survive as human beings is through adaptability. And this adaptability requires cultivating these other forms of intelligence, and in particular, the liberating, the creative form that allows us to take some distance as how things have been done until now and be able to improvise, resolve new challenges that we're facing, and do so in a collective manner. But I don't know if I missed.
About what? Sorry.
Labor?
Because I think that the labor it's one of the main activities, and you know much more than I about labor and its problems. Labor has been, because this functional domination of human intelligence, labor has become an element of productivity fundamentally, and has been divided in little activities, which makes not much sense to the workers. They do it for the salary because they need it. And but don't give. Sorry. Continue. But if you want to continue. Oh, we need to change this thing because one of the problems is has created programmed intelligence, intelligence with patterns of behavior fixed, very easy to control, very easy to make it work for you and to be exploited, and only if in labor we introduce a cultivation of intelligence in all its dimensions, we will change. In fact, we will change the world because labor is the most big activity of humans. And if you develop intelligence in labor, you will develop intelligence in the whole world. And this is one of the needs to avoid the path we are going to the precipice in actually.
And before my father gets me into trouble, I'll pass for another.
No, I think what you both said very clearly echoes with the ILO vision of work as a human good and not as an economic function per se. But I think this brings us to a kind of a challenge that you do talk about in the book, is that, AI in some way is trying to narrow intelligence in a sense that, what can be automated, what can be programmed, what can be optimized in a way. But I think there are a number of limitations, right? And you do highlight some of them in the paper. So do you, Jermaine, want to talk a bit about what are some of the AI limitations?
Well, the main limitation, which is basic for all the others, is that artificial intelligence is an aspect of functional intelligence, which is only a part of human intelligence. And this is clear. It's very good at information, dealing with information, even better than us. And this, for programmed intelligences, it's very dangerous because bit by bit, artificial intelligence will be better than us in dealing with information, in using it, for instance, in Wall Street. The finances they are ruled by algorithms and will be more that in enterprises, in great corporations, etc. Then this is the main limitation, that the artificial intelligence is focused in one aspect of our lives, very important aspect to satisfy our needs. But for instance, cannot deal with the feelings we have, what is good, what is bad, what to do, the axiological intelligence, which is a sentient intelligence. Artificial intelligence has no sensibility at all. Even when dealing with values, you call it ethical intelligence, it's a functionalization of values, makes functions that do certain things, apply the knowledge you have of values, but it's a limited way. It's not a sensibility that it's able in every moment to adapt to the circumstance, to change, if necessary, the value, and create new ones for the new situations. And the other one, which is nothing to do with artificial intelligence, is deliberating intelligence. Intelligence has nothing to do with freedom. And that makes that intelligence can do fantastic things like combinations of information, projections of information to the future, take decisions, make new combinations of information. Something that surprises us and we are fascinating by this aspect. But the capacity to face the unknown, which is proper of freedom, it's impossible for artificial intelligence. That's because of as I said before, the fascination with information that we have, that these mistakes of saying that intelligence will overcome in all kinds of situations human intelligence. The singularity point that is told that the day that artificial intelligence will overcome human intelligence, that is impossible because it's centered in one aspect of intelligence.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yome. I think what you try to argue is that the limits of AI aren't technical, they are existential. It is much more about it can't care, it can't imagine or take responsibility. And I think this is where the entire real risk isn't that AI takes over, but I think we start thinking of the logic and start getting subsumed by it. So it's probably important to ask, how do we actually recover from it? How do we cultivate the kind of human intelligence that AI can't replicate, especially in the world of work? And here, one of the things I do want to mention, which comes out from the papers very clearly, that the authors in 2024, when they were writing this article, go to ChatGPT and ask it to list a whole set of references for this particular article on human intelligence, and they give the entire topic and they look into it. It surely goes and lists a whole lot of publications, but none of them actually exist in reality. So this basically gets us to the question that we are talking about, that, what is the limits of this AI or even these generative AI tools that are coming in? And I think we need to take a step forward, backwards rather, and try to question ourselves instead of being subsumed by it and say, how is this actually being produced? What is it taking into consideration, and who is it actually bringing in? Now, this brings me to one of the final questions that I have for both the speakers today, is that, you've talked about this whole human intelligence, AI, and all of it. So sitting here at the ILO, what is the kind of recommendations you would like to give? Because this is not about getting into question around AI regulation at workplace. Okay, what bots can you use and what bots you cannot use? It's much more about, we as humans have intelligence. How do we actually utilize this intelligence? So I think I'd like to hear a bit more around that before we throw the discussion open to the audience. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Uma. And again, we don't pretend to have the magical formula or the crystal ball or the magic wand to tell you how to promote human intelligence at work. And part of it is because it's experiential and it needs to be context specific, and it needs us to, get into doing it through effort and through experimentation. But we do propose a series of recommendations that you can see on the screen, which are, first of all, a way of trying to first promote the 5 constitutive powers that we propose in our model. So, first of all, something that sounds very simple, but being better at aligning work with genuine interest, individual and collective, because that's what we will know. We will not have intuition. That's when we bring our best. So, it means, and AI could help us in that. AI could put in the use at helping us out actually also realizing better what our interests, where is our added value, and having AI take care of the more routinary tasks. Second constitutive power, work as a space where we're better at promoting meaningful communication. And it's not easy these days. I mean, after the pandemic, we're all behind our screens. I, for one, realized that we communicate less, and therefore I will confess that I think my thinking is not as rich because I don't have the habit that I used to have to knock in colleagues' doors and brainstorming and coming with better ideas. So how can we imagine our workplace so we can create better means to communicate. And it's funny because when you look at AI, I was doing research for also references for AI, how AI could assist that. All the focus is on the interface between AI and humans. But AI could also be used in helping us improve the interface among humans to tap into the collective potential of human intelligence. Again, all comes back from this idea that individual leadership or creativity saves the day. That's a cultural myth, and intelligence always works through this symbiotic collective interaction. So thirdly, how can we better organize labor as networks of teams that will work in the subsidiary symbiosis? So you try to bring the decision-making level, the lowest level possible, where it makes sense, where there is ownership. And this ties very nicely with our labor is not a commodity, war cry at the ILO. It's also about promoting cultures at work that foster this constant research and inquiry, this cultural mutation that we very pretentiously call for, from sapiens who knows to querens who constantly inquires. And therefore, we also list out some ideas on measures to better promote creativity at work. And therefore, we say freedom, and therefore tying with the ILO, well-being at work, because that's a fundamental precondition to be able to exercise fully our human intelligence. Beyond these five, we also explore other ideas, but again, these are just sketched out in the paper, and we'll be looking forward to see how you react and what you think should be done. But a broad one is this requires rethinking a lot of our incentive systems and cultural inertias at work, specifically going beyond the obsession with productivity and short-term gain, maybe rethinking incentive systems and salary rewards so that we can actually really tap into the potential of our intelligence. Of course, making AI support the development of human intelligence in the workplace, and knowing the strengths of AI, but also being very aware as to its pitfalls. I mean, recent research is in the newspapers. It's been in the past few weeks. MIT published a research paper showing that those, again, highly qualified individuals that got used to using generative AI for writing essays, the research shows that once they stop having those tools, there's cognitive shortcomings. They're short-term for now. That's the results of but they point the finger to the danger of we're using these tools, tools that are designed to please us. Generative AI, that's why it invents articles, is designed to give you an answer that will satisfy you. And we don't know that. We use it without knowing. So we need, well, and in the article, we're not aiming at trashing AI. We're aiming at making an intelligent use of AI that fosters human intelligence. And that's why another idea that we propose is maybe creating a new professional figure. We call them AI-HI mediators. It would be professionals that know very well the state of AI, the tools available, but also its pitfalls, how to use them intelligently so we don't become dumber. And also is someone that is very cognizant of how to promote human intelligence, so that it can be an advisor that in every team, depending on the evolving needs in the context, can provide advice on this mediation and ultimately trying to help us all in focusing on a better development of our human intelligence. And of course, we are at the ILO, so this writer has a soft spot for pointing at international coordination and the role that organizations like the ILO could provide here as forums first to monitor, identify what is the impact, and not only collect best practices, but see what measures could be undertaken for this promotion of collective human intelligence at work. So again, these are some of the ideas, but most of all, we're looking forward to, if you have any other...
Well, I can just on... I realized then when in the 70s, when I was entered in the field of artificial intelligence, that the only way to make artificial intelligence to go to work for the well-being of humanity is that human intelligence was well developed. There is no other way. if we continue with programmed intelligence controlled by domination power, etc., we will not have an artificial intelligence at the service of all humanity. The second point is that I read in the Declaration of the Future of Work from ILO that labor should be centered on the person. And I then realized that if the human intelligence is the agent of human life, this means that the ILO center should be on the development of intelligence, on human intelligence. This is a great, great responsibility for ILO, because if in labor we advance in the growth of intelligence, will mean that the intelligence of most people will grow, and we will avoid digital dictatorships, and in particular, the path we are following to a precipice due to the immense power of destruction we have in our hands. Just this.
Thank you so much, both of you, Jordi and Jaume, for these recommendations that you propose. And what is very clear is that it is not about actually resisting AI, but much more about how do we cultivate to make us more human, and how do we design workplaces in a way that protect and encourage more the human interactions and human ingenuity. So with that, I'm going to open the floor. We have about 30 more minutes for discussion. So both here in the room as well as online. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put it in the Q&A and we'll take it up. So let me start here with Juan, and then I come 1, 2, 3. Sure. Juan.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for this inspiring presentation. I think you must be very proud of your father. Today, we live in a world where everybody claims to be an expert on AI, and actually we found one, so that's very good. So my question is, I really like your model of there is functional, axiological, and liberating intelligence. And if I understand, you're saying that in the first pillar, the battle is lost. The AI is much better than us in doing rational data analysis and things that can be programmed. On the second and the third, I think you say that is more close to humans, so we are somehow protected. But I think that the AI emulates pretty well the second and the third. When we see today how people are driven by algorithms, social media, the TikToks, the Instagrams, how people think in a certain manner, vote in a certain manner, buy things in a certain manner. I don't know. I believe that we're already, maybe behind those AIs there are humans driving that, but we're already losing in some of the second and third column in my views. My question to you would be, in your recommendations, if you think that we have a mandate or we have a responsibility as the ILO to protect human intelligence and to maintain it, so shouldn't that be part of the recommendations, that we have an obligation to help our constituents understand that many people are, sorry to use a more recent analogy, but in the matrix? Because it seems to, like, a lot of people today around the world are not necessarily looking for being conscious nor free, nor, they're just happy in their algorithm doing what everybody else is doing, copying what they're doing, and not really thinking about freedom, just another clog in the machine. So what are your views on this? Is there something that we should be doing? Could we really? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Juan. And let me move now to the gentleman in the far right, and I'll come back.
Okay.
Just introduce yourself also.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Benignos Onyebuchi Abasrum. Actually, I'm representing an NGO called AJIPA. And I find the conversation quite interesting, especially when you talked about the freedom of AI. And this actually really caught my attention a lot, because when we talk about the freedom of AI, in which actually you define as something which is impossible to the AI itself. And for us human beings, it's more or less, the capacity to face the unknown. And which brings to my question, in asking, how does this freedom of AI intercept with intellectual property rights? Don't you think it could also kill the capacity of human beings to be, creative in terms of, the liberation of thought? And as well as, because when we talk about copyright in the area of, we talk about originality, don't you think AI or the use of AI these days can kill that natural creativity of human being in terms of our natural way of thinking? Because what we protect in in IP in terms of copyright is not the idea itself, but the expression of the idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the gentleman next to it, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Ambassador Professor Muhammad Duka from the Gambia. Excuse me, it's been a long day of talking. But just want to appreciate the panel and the very brilliant and insightful paper that you have shared. Just appreciating it and coming here to be part of this conversation. I chair the Commission for Science, Technology and Development for the UN, and also the Working Group on Data Governance. What I find quite intriguing is really to rediscover the true meaning of intelligence as humans. I think the paper did a wonderful job of challenging us on the retrieval of human intelligence. I think that's profound. The fascination that we all have and the fear surrounding AI often stems from the undervaluing of human intelligence. I think this is key, particularly when we relate it to this house, which is work, where what matters most is the centrality of empathy, the centrality of creativity, as well as ethical judgment that remains uniquely human. And I think that needs to be factored in this discussion and in the LLMs. Also, you mentioned it earlier in your interventions, the centrality of human creation. Labor, as we know it, has always been a space of creativity. The point that this gentleman have pointed, the issues around creativity and expressions of creativity in intellectual property. But more importantly, labor has always been about dignity, as well as meaning, where craft, wisdom, and heritage are transmitted from one generation to the other. This is particularly important for us from the African perspective or the global South in general. So human intelligence, adaptive problem solving, and innovation are essential to humanizing work around those concepts. So the qualities, these are qualities that artificial intelligence cannot replicate, but should rather augment. So there is still the need of artificial intelligence, I think, because it's created by humans. And it cannot replicate, but it can do augmentation of this very vital concept. I would have liked to see in the paper the unique perspectives that do exist in part of our world, the African perspective, particularly on the ethos around Ubuntu. I'm sure you're familiar with Ubuntu ethos. From the African perspective, Ubuntu reminds us that intelligence is relational, is ethical, and is collective. Labor is not merely an individual effort, but a communal creation with nurturing shared intelligence and social cohesion. So culture, heritage, and intuition are very critical, and AI systems risk truly eroding cultural heritage by privileging data over lived experiences. And we've begun to see that on synthetic data. I just came back from chairing the high-level conversation at WIPO on intellectual property and frontier technologies and synthetic data and deep fakes and what that is happening, what that is doing now in today's world. And to what extent do you see this rise of the synthetic world and labor, and what does it mean for us as humans? And I will stop there. The last point is on social structuration and equity. The rise of AI could deepen, in my view, inequalities if it displaces human agency in labor. So most of us are saying that we must shape sovereign, ethical, and culturally grounded AI governance and data governance that enhance inclusion, protects heritage, and empower human potential. I think these are some elements that I would like to hear your perspective and insights on, but I must say it's quite a brilliant paper that should be shared widely across the multilateral environment so that it can be part of our reflections as we begin to deliberate around AI governance, around data governance, and around the rise of synthetic data around multilateral environment. And I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your intervention. And can I ask the colleague?
I'm Vida. I work here at the ILO. Thank you for this very interesting talk, actually. And we will have to go and read the article. I have a question. I have the impression that the world of work is completely overtaken by the functional view of intelligence. We have these management tools like resource tracking, how performance is appraised and everything. It goes really toward that kind of measurement. How easy would that be? How hard it would be to deconstruct all of this and to go through, I mean, a transformation that will lead to a new direction of other aspects of intelligence? Do you think this is realistically possible?
Thank you so much. Xavier, can you wait for the second round? Huh? So we've got very fascinating questions here. So I think
share volume and listen to really.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jody, first you, and then Jeremy.
Well, we'll start with Vida. It's daunting, yes, but what we claim is that the only way forward, if we want to retrieve our, intelligence, dignity, our power, our freedom. So, but yes, but it's extremely daunting. And again, we don't have the answers. We're just trying to stimulate it a bit. We're just trying to very humbly to put a bit more focus on this crucial element that can be approached from so many perspectives. And thank you so much, Ambassador, for these extremely rich and inspiring words. Ubuntu is there with the insight. And again, we acknowledge, of course, our paper is from our biases, from Barcelona we come, so have our that's why in the paper when we refer to the Renaissance, we say in the Western cultural narrative where we come from, but indeed it needs to be enriched, it needs to be, and that's one of the problems with AI development, that it's very biased culturally. You're completely right, and actually we talked about some of our cosmological inspirations, but another one is cross-cultural dialogue and intercultural learning, and that's definitely missing. So it's a part of the paper that we don't touch upon, but duly taken into account. I don't know much about synthetic data, so I'll let my father maybe get into that, which was your main question, but otherwise, I would say let's keep on talking. This is really inspiring, and I was taking copious notes, but maybe I was not able to grasp all the really insightful things that you had to share. Thank you so much, Ambassador. On the really interesting question on IP, just to clarify that what we're saying is not that there is a freedom of AI, that human intelligence quintessential quality is freedom. In the paper, we don't get into the many thorny issues about how AI is going about. Maybe I would suggest there is an author that is tackling those issues, were discussing with Uma, the empire of AI. That actually, in a way, draws parallelisms between imperialism and the way that that AI is approaching, including as to cultural creation and just bulldozing through without necessarily any thought about how this might impact our creativity and in the incentives. That's why, as you said, IP is there. But again, if we missed a specific question, so you don't think that AI can kill the use of creativity? Because yes, I mean, we make the argument from an even more general perspective. If we don't exercise these forms of intelligence that are quintessentially human, because we're happy to let generative AI draft the answers for us, we are losing our cognitive capacities, we are losing touch with creativity. If we're just making, for example, in the cultural realm, songs using all this really wonderful software that there is today to create music, but keeping rehashing all patterns, and we don't dare go beyond and engage in breakthroughs, like we say in the article. One thing is to create a new likable song. The other thing is to come up with the 12-tone musical system, right? That's a breakthrough. So no, fully aligned with that and the dangers that are there. And this brings me to Juan. Yes, very long discussions as to whether, and we try to touch upon it, whether artificial intelligence can emulate or pretend to be axiological, value-based, and creative. There is this phenomenon today of a lot of people, instead of going to the psychologist, asking generative AI client. These clients are designed to please you. And of course, they can work in that regard, but it's just probability. It's like, what word, what sentence shall I give to make the client at the other end happy and feel that I'm a human? But it's pure probabilistic guess without any feeling or knowledge. So that's where we consider their limitations. And in creativity, there is also fascination. And for example, studies show that you can teach AI a game, and AI is able to cheat to actually be better at the game. And people are. But it's still following a certain goal. It's still instrumental. And of course, in a surprising way, right? Because there are connections. So we claim that this true creativity, and maybe the problem is that we've forgotten to use it. And that's why we're calling us in being more daring and exploring. I'm the first one. How can I be better at cultivating these dimensions? But you're, of course, and I'll try kind of avoid your question. If we should do something, I don't have, of course, I'm not the, I don't have any authority to say what the ILO should be doing, but in the papers you will see we do note quite a few avenues where I think the mandate of the organization and the support we provide to constituents, should they wish to approach us with those requests, could hopefully contribute to this process of promoting human intelligence at work. With that, the international civil servant stops and the freer retired researcher has the floor.
Only add some few things. We should remember that humans are permanent learners and teachers. This is one of the characteristics of human intelligence. Learning from action. And this is very important to teach each other through human relationships. And this is the way to make human intelligence grow. If we reinforce human relationships, teaching each other, we will make intelligence grow. This is the, and not only in the school, the teaching, the school really in the families, but also in every place we deal, we can teach each other. And through these human relationships, I think this is the way that intelligence can grow. And this is not so, it's difficult because we have a deep individualism in ourselves, not in particular in African places where there is more sense of collectivity and Asia, but in the Western we have a terrible individualism and ambitions and expectations and rivalry and competition, which doesn't allow these human relationships to flourish everywhere.
Thank you so much to both of you. I do want to respond to Ambassador about the synthetic data. And that's something that, as part of the work we're doing at the ILO on the AI supply chains, you do find a lot of that synthetic data being developed, which is then used into the AI modeling, which is very problematic in a way. So probably we could have a conversation around that as we move forward. There's another round that I'll take. Let me start with Xavier, and then you, and then we have a question online. Over to you, Xavier.
Thank you very much, Uma, and thank you very much to the Agusti family. And actually, I really thank you because it's so interesting, so inspiring. That's absolutely great. And actually, I would have a question for the father and a question for the son. So a question for the father, for the scientist. Well, I read several times in the past years that the average IQ of human beings would be declining. I don't know if IQ is a correct evaluation of intelligence, perhaps not, but I would like to know whether you think that, including because of the development of AI and perhaps also, I don't know, some other trends such as the fact that we read less and less, do you think that human intelligence is declining or not? So that would be a question for the father. And then a question for the son.
Start directly this way, it might be more dynamic. Yeah?
I answer to your question. I think that IQ, it's a measure. We are really obsessed with measuring things of individual intelligence. But intelligence is not a possession of individuals. It's a collective fact. It's in the interactions, which I call interactions because are interactions that constitute the person. Through interactions with nature and with other humans, we constitute ourselves. And this is the power of intelligence. And this IQ don't just measure the intelligence of an individual. Surely that is going down because we have so much automatization that people don't use very much his own intelligence. And then it's normal that it goes down because they are always in the mobile phones, in the screens, and don't live life fully. Don't experience fully the reality. They are more attached to information. And that's really a problem for the development of human intelligence. I don't know if I have answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much. And a question for the son. And Jordi, I do not resist to make a connection between your work on artificial intelligence with your past assignment as a member of the Freedom of Association branch. So how would you connect your program for the growth of human intelligence with democracy, democracy at work, industrial democracy?
Very, very good question. And we used to work together. Xavier is a colleague, not only a colleague, but a very dear friend, and always one with very good questions. And one that hugely contributed to the development of my personal intelligence on international labor standards. So thank you for that to start. And then how to connect. Of course, there are many possible connections, but one of them maybe comes from the principle or this element of subsidiary symbiosis, right? That calls our intuition is that to be not only to allow freedom, but also to be more effective, to be able to solve problems, to be able to, and in so doing also humanize labor, it's bringing decision-making down. So our ideal workplace would be one in which these older hierarchical patterns, top-down of how to organize work, would hopefully be replaced with more horizontal, organic ways of organizing, and that indeed ties with more democratic organizational structures. This also tries to, of course, collective bargaining, which is your field of expertise. And I would be turning the question around and say, how do you think we could implement that in collective bargaining? Because part of the strength of collective bargaining is, of course, great coverage, but at the same time, there is part of responding to the specificity of that unit or their needs and challenges. So how to find a combination with which keeping levels of universal protection and having the power of numbers. And so not falling into the automation, which can, in these houses, we well know, can lead into precariousness. But I would say these are just some thoughts, but most of all, let's keep on discussing on that, because I think it's a really interesting area and intersection. And the father wants to add.
Well, just, you mentioned democracy. Is that right? That, or not?
Yes. No.
Yes, well, one of the, democracy means the power of people. And what is the power of people? In his intelligence, in his creative intelligence. For security reasons, they have dismissed this immense power of creativity because they feel secure when they are secure to obtain a way of satisfying their needs. When I started this idea of working on human intelligence, I called the project, in my first book, it's explained, that what I call creative intelligences, creative democracies. Creative democracies are organizations, societies, cultures that his first endeavor, his first obligation is the growth of intelligence, of a full, wise intelligence in all its members. And I think that labor should be a creative democracy.
So much. The gentleman at the back, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. My name is Luis Melero. I'm working in the Labor Standard Department. I'm also ex-colleague of Jordi, and for me, it's a pleasure. I've been reading a lot of articles of AI since many years. It's a topic that I'm very interested in, but this morning, when I finished, I tried to finish your article before coming to the meeting. And I may say that it's a long one and detailed one, but that helped me a lot to, let's say, to frame assumptions that I had. Now I have a better framework for many things that I realized that was not easy to put in words. So I really thank you for the effort, because maybe one of the aspects of your article is to give us the possibility of pointing out to things that we know they are there, but to frame it and to name it. So for people interested, it's like a lighthouse showing the path. And I will try just to make a quick reflection, because maybe it's related with the question that Juan made. I missed it, but I'm sure that it's somehow related. I saw in the paper the idea that from a business point of view, artificial intelligence is always reduced to this functional intelligence, performing tasks, which is something that is measurable, in which current developments are available. So tasks can be performed automatically. This is productivity. So this is it. We don't need to think more about other areas of intelligence. We have what we want, which is tasks that can be performed. It reminds me to this joke of Woody Allen when he said that money doesn't give happiness, but gives something so closely related to happiness that you need to be an expert to see the difference. So it's not intelligence. Okay, it's something so close to what I understand. It's intelligent. The system can automatically do things. That's enough for me. But then if we enter into this fallacy as workers, if we reduce intelligence just to functional intelligence, then we are losing. And then we are starting to feel stressed, anxious about being replaced. We're no longer even talking about replacing jobs, but even replacing humans. every time we use the word artificial intelligence, the word intelligence resonates like an attribute of humans, which is a fallacy because it's also in animals. Animals are intelligent in a way. So if we don't see more or beyond, as you are pointing out, other values and this axiological intelligence, we are starting to think that we as humans can be replaced and that we have nothing to add in labor, just tasks to be performed. I finished my contribution remembering my mother. She was a nurse. She's now retired. And in care economy, which is one of the places in which I see more axiological value than functional value, and current system, generative AI, is way beyond, way far away from replacing nurses, for instance. Every time my mother did domiciliary visiting to old people, she always told me, they are not waiting for me to put an injection or to give pills or to control health condition, but to smile, to tell how are you doing, and to know that I'm coming for them. So to trust that someone cares about me. Even if we try to replicate, and maybe this is the question, we try to create systems that can replicate empathy or give us psychological advice using the best word ever, this is just a word. So if I'm working with Juan and I reduce my colleague to a certain bunch of knowledge that I can read in a book, that's fine. But I'm missing that if I'm stressed, he can tell me a joke to make my day. And this is work team. We call that work team, ambience. This is also part of the work and something of the value of Juan as a worker. Be able to see that I'm stressed and try to invite me to a beer that I'm waiting. So I just thank you for making us visible what maybe the business point of view is trying to reduce and to make us believe that we have nothing more to do than to make task and task and task. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you so much. There are two questions online that I do want you to take, and then
intervention about what you said about money, the Woody Allen. Money is information, it's not wealth. This is very important because we confuse usually information with reality. Words don't describe reality, model it. The phrase normally which shows the freedom of human intelligence is that words are not things.
Okay, there are two questions online, and I want you to address it. One is linked to consciousness, and how do you link the whole issue that we're talking about, human intelligence, AI, with behavioral economics? And the second one comes from Elizabeth, who is basically trying to argue that to better develop all the HI aspects, it is necessary to forge new neurological pathways. Otherwise, survival programming will continue to roll, so humans would not be able to reach their full potential and be creators of reality. And she basically argues that they should start at home, education systems. And secondly, on the collective bargaining, there are very interesting clauses in agreements that are seen in transitional clauses, and she would be very happy to share. So if you can take all of this, respond in 2 minutes, that would be great, Johnny.
Okay, very quickly, I'll start with the second one. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, another former colleague. Please do send these examples. Fully resonate with what you're saying through your question and your ideas of starting from the beginning. Let's keep on talking. On the first question from Bolorma, consciousness. It is linked to consciousness in the sense that one of our arguments is that functional intelligence cannot be can emulate consciousness, and machines can pretend to have it, but again, we're talking about math, probability. It's not that. And again, we can fall in the pitfall of preferring to have ChatGPT advisors than psychologists. And we want to prefer to live in a virtual reality and lose contact with other humans. It's not the world we like, but you can choose to go that way, of course. Behavioral economics, very interesting. I'm not an expert on behavioral economics, but but it's another form of modeling. So of course, it's a science that AI can take and use the parameters for all the theories and use it to all sorts of ends, to contribute to political campaigns, to contribute to marketing and sales, etc. But again, it's what we would say it's a model. It's a model that can be very powerful, but it falls short as to this liberating aspect, which is being able even to take some distance from the assumptions of behavioral economics. And that's all for me. Thank you so much, everyone here and online. Amazing contributions, really inspiring. Let's keep on discussing. And with that, I'll leave my father and.
I don't remember the question. There was
On consciousness.
Consciousness. Well, this is a complicated thing because one of the books on artificial intelligence, I think, was called Zumberg, is called AI 3.0, which says that artificial intelligence have consciousness. My view of consciousness is that is, in some sense, the accumulation of our experiences. Normally, when we have an experience, we translate it into words, we interpret it. In some sense, we lose the power of the moment of experiencing deeply without words. We translate into words and we record it in the memory. And this accumulation of memories of experiences make, in some sense, our consciousness. In that sense, artificial intelligence is recording continuously experiences and behaviors of all people around the world. In that sense, could have a parallel, but I think that this is not a real consciousness, this accumulation of, because consciousness is pure consciousness, which means living the moment as new always, living, experiencing reality in each moment, which is always new, always advancing towards novelty, always unknown. And this is the power of intelligence, to be there in the moment, without words, without thoughts. This is the real power of, which is the liberating intelligence, in fact.
Thank you so much, Yome and Jody, for this real fascinating discussion today. And before I thank you all, I think there's one thing I do want to stress is that please go and look at the article. And it's really very full of rich philosophical discussion and a lot of practicalities too there. And I think what this article has sought to very clearly stress, and there's a very powerful message that comes out, is its human-centered approach to AI should make us realize how limited AI's understanding of human intelligence is, and how much human intelligence actually gets neglected in this entire process. So I think a lot for us to think about, and there's a lot of hope. And I think this is a place, ILO is a place where we can bring about a change, not just by thinking of regulations, but thinking about how we as humans, how we as part of the ILO can bring about a change. So I'd like to thank all the participants online and everybody in the room for participating in this rich discussion, and we'll continue the discussion here. Thank you so much.
I forget to say something. This book will be in the library. If someone wants to consult it, the chapter 4 is about human intelligence.